And the Minnesota Wild had the 21st pick in the 2023 NHL Draft, and they have taken center Charlie Stramel from the University of Wisconsin. Gil Martin here with Hadi Kalakeche, our prospects expert. And now we are joined by Seth Toupal of Locked On Wild to break down every angle of this selection. And Seth, were you surprised by the selection of Stramel with this pick?
I was shocked, to say the least, because not that the Wild don't need centers, but I have been trying to hype up the need for skill players and players who can play in your top six, maybe not necessarily a center, but wings, guys that can play in the top six. And this pick to me just looks like somebody that is destined to, not that they're not important, but somebody who's destined to be more of a physical presence in the bottom end. And that seems to be the area that the Wild have the biggest area of talent thrown right now is the bottom six. And so I got to say, I'm sitting here kind of like, what happened?
Hadi, does that make sense to you? Is that where you see Stramel developing into?
In a word, no. Sorry, in terms of where he went, no. In terms of how he develops, absolutely. I mean, he's one of the poorest skaters I've watched this year, and that holds back a player usually. Now, he's got some decent skills in terms of goal scoring ability, in terms of connecting plays, in terms of finding space in the offensive zone, but you can't rely on him at all to carry the puck up the ice, which is a big issue, because if you want a center out of him, you like your centers carrying the puck, taking the puck from their defensemen and carrying them up at least a zone or two. And Stramel he struggles with that. So the issue for me is, how do you make Stramel a consistent NHLer? For me, it's as a physical winger, as a forechecking winger, the guy who's going to be battling it up along the boards, winning you puck battles, getting the pucks off the boards, making plays to the middle, or making plays to the point. Is that worth a 21st overall pick with the guys that were available? I can't justify it. I had Stramel 54th in my rankings. So I was considerably low on him, not just because of the skating issues, but also because of the fact that he plays in Wisconsin, which is notoriously bad at developing players and making solid NHLers out of them. Apart from the exceptions like Cole Caulfield, you don't get a lot of decent players. Players don't often improve coming out of that program. They're pretty much the same heading into it. So that's a concern for me. It's just where he's playing. But there was a coaching change in Wisconsin. Maybe that pushes him in the right direction. He's working with some notoriously good assistant coaches that are good at developing goal scorers out of players. So maybe they make his scoring an element that's strong enough that he could score 25, 30 goals at the NHL level. But it's a big, big if. And ifs are bad in the first round usually.
Seth, was there a player that you would have preferred who was available at 21?
Well, the funny thing is, the player that I had selected for the Wild in our Locked On NHL mock draft, Callum Ritchie, was still there. He was still there and ready to be had for the taking. And for me, I think the most frustrating part is seeing Oliver Moore drop to 19, go to Chicago, who also got Connor Bedard, and then seeing Callum Ritchie go to Colorado, and just looking at all of these different centers that were going to be there at 21, taking one that just frankly was not really in my line of thinking. And again, that's why I'm here. And the Judd Brackett and Bill Guerin are in Nashville. I'm not the one making the picks, but he wasn't on my radar. Ritchie, Moore, they both were, and Ritchie was still there.
Yeah, okay. So not thrilled is Seth Toupal's reaction to this pick. For more on this selection and all the Wild's other moves around the draft and free agency, tune in to Locked On Wild for free on your favorite podcast app and on YouTube. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.